In the story Star witnessed, Christ told Star that people are getting paid for folly. In other words, how much do you think the truth is worth? He also said that some appear poor in order to make others rich. So if you're a publisher and you're looking to become rich beyond your wildest dreams, I suggest you DM this account as soon as possible. For there are 2 books written, ready to be published, describing the angel of the Lord, who goes by the name of Joseph, and how he's here during the times of revelation to repeat the messages that his father gave him, even though his father is hiding his face from a wicked generation. He has his son who is his messenger. So his son said that Clinton, Giuliani, and the Pope are all going to die within the same week, and the Statue of Liberty, the Eiffel Tower, and the White Jesus statue in Brazil are all going to fall on the same day. And within the volumes of books of Christ's witness, you will get way more prophecies than that. That is just the tip of the iceberg. In other words, let's read. The political growth of the peoples of Africa, a development which has come to fruition within the lifetime of every one of us here present, is one of the most striking and extraordinary evolutions in the recorded history of man. The political coming of age of the African peoples is ample testimony that we are witnessing the inauguration of a new and splendid period in this continent history. Why? Because it says God will become king, then hide his face from a wicked generation, until the Russian army enters the mountains of Ethiopia, which will happen in the latter years of Revelation. So let's watch if he's still alive.
Say it again, you don't believe Haile Selassie is buried here?
Here is where they say he's buried. So that he is literally at the spot where they say he's buried. And he's saying, no, he's not here, because the person here has a larger shoe size than him. The person here is taller than him. In other words, he's not there. He's supposed to be alive, and he said he will reveal himself in Ezekiel 38 when the army from the north enters into his land in an attempt to take spoil. In other words, they're going to go there to take silver and gold. And Ethiopia is known for 24-karat gold.
You don't believe Haile Selassie buried here. The reason is when they found the body under the toilet from his former palace, they measured the body. So this body was 170 centimeters, but the height of Haile Selassie was 165. Yeah, and at that time, the communist leader, Prime Minister Mengistu, he sent him to Dredawa with Volkswagen car, and the people told us when he get to Dredawa, at that time, 1,000 people gathered and welcomed him. In the 3 or within 5 days, he disappeared.
And that's why Mengistu started killing everybody?
Yeah. Yeah.
So he's not dead.
Yeah, it's difficult to say so, but yeah.
He was witness in Brooklyn in 2002, and he was witness in West Virginia in 2017. In other words, him is alive.
But he's also been sighted in Ethiopia, His Imperial Majesty. And I know an Italian man who also saw him in the late 90s in Italy that said he was meeting with the Pope because the Pope was giving money to build back the roads in Ethiopia. And this man didn't know anything about Rasta believing about the divinity of Haile Selassie. Yeah. And he told me, he said he saw him. He was very old, but he looked very good for his age. And the man was one of Mussolini's soldiers. Yeah. He told me he saw him, and I was in the late 90s.
Yeah. And if you go to like in UK, maybe if you get the chance, you can visit a museum in London. Yeah. So still you can see Haile Selassie's uniform. When he went to Dredawa, he used to use that uniform. Nowadays, this uniform located in UK Museum.
Right. And in Bristol,
yeah,
where he stayed.
But if he buried, they will bury him with his uniform, with his clothes.
They don't have his ring. The Solomonic ring?
The Solomonic ring is to be given to Solomon, who is his son. Remember, David, in Psalm 72, it lets you know that the Psalm of Solomon ends when the Psalms of David, the son of Jesse, has ended. In other words, Solomon is David. He's named after his father, the root of David. So wake up, people. Those who cannot remember the past are condemned to repeat it. Quotes from George Santayana. So let's know who was the king and what happened to him.
England and France abandoned Ethiopia to Mussolini.
Your Imperial Majesty, what were your own personal feelings at that time?
My personal feeling is my hope. I continue to struggle to have our freedom from the fascists.
Did you ever give up hope, Your Imperial Majesty?
Never, in any time, I continue with big hope because I have a relation with my patriot people. I continue to encourage them. They continue their struggle.
In 1928, he led the troops that killed Empress Zoditu's husband, who was not of royal blood, and became regent. He became emperor on November 2nd, 1930, and was crowned Haile Selassie I, King of Kings, King of Zion, conquering lion of the seed of Judah.
Power of the Trinity.
Power of the Trinity.
Abraham, Isaac, Jacob. God himself as himself. Pay attention.
Ethiopian monarch, Haile Selassie I, the conquering lion of the tribe of Judah, elect of God, King of Kings, power of the Trinity, Emperor of Ethiopia, who is just over 5 feet tall and weighs 100 pounds.
He was 5 feet 7 inches tall. Or he is 5 feet 7 inches tall.
Who refused to admit defeat to the Italians, who, with his half-naked, poorly armed warriors, made a last-ditch stand in Addis Ababa against Benito Mussolini's forces.
Notice he was fighting against Italy. And if you know, within the books of Maccabean, also known as the book of Maccabees, Italy is Rome. And Rome is part of the Greek kingdom, which includes Egypt and Jerusalem, along with others. Basically the whole Middle East.
But finally, the emperor had to flee the country with his family. On the 30th of June, 1936, he appealed to the League of Nations in Geneva. During Haile Selassie's recent visit to Canada last April,
he basically had the colonizers fight amongst themselves. When he went to England, he basically had England fight against the other colonizers of his continent, which is a very smart move. So let's see what he says. It is important to note that the Ethiopian Orthodox Tewahedo Church has 2 Bible canons, the narrow canon, which contains fewer books, and the broader canon, which contains more. The broader canon has not been printed in Ethiopia since the beginning of the 20th century. The Haile Selassie version of the Bible, which was published in 1962, contains the narrower canon in Amharic, translated from Ge'ez. It's not translated from Hebrew or from Latin or from Egypt or any other place. It's an Ethiopian Bible. That's why it says Ethiopia has the oldest, most complete Bible on earth. And complete means having the necessary things. So what did Rome do? They added on books. And what did they do? They also left out books. So if you look at the KJV version, they don't have Jesus, the son of Sirach. So let's read what Jesus, the son of Sirach, is all about. The wisdom of Jesus, the son of Sirach. So this Jesus is the grandson to the first Jesus. So this Jesus is the grandchild to Jesus in the latter times. Because you see, the heathens are the ones who change everything. So they create an Old and New Testament format and told you that futuristic stories happening in the Old Testament. Because Jesus in the Old Testament is known as Joshua, and he's supposed to be here with Moses. So Jesus in the latter times, after the people have been led away captive and called home again, and almost after all the prophets, now his grandfather Jesus, as he himself witnesseth. In other words, he's together with his grandfather during the generations of Jacob and Joseph, which goes from Jacob, Joseph, to Jesus, to Sirach, to Jesus, who is going to be here after almost all the prophets. So the first Jesus died, left a book to Sirach to send his son to his own Jesus. And that Jesus did imitate Solomon, who goes by the name of Moses, who goes by the name of David, and was no less famous for wisdom and learning, both being indeed a man of great learning, and so reputed also. So what did Rome do to the Ethiopian Bible? They added in their own books. So if you get the Ethiopian Bible, the 88 book version, you will see the first epistle of Clement to Corinthians, which is not in Haile Selassie's 72 book Amharic version. You will also find Susanna, which is not in Haile Selassie 72 book Amharic version, which was translated from Ge'ez. So let's read. In former ages, Ge'ez was the language of the country. Ge'ez gradually grew until it became common speech of the people, taking the place Min Amharic took over Ge'ez. So at that time, Ge'ez was understood by the learned people of the church, but was not readily understood by the ordinary people. Arising from this, the scholars in their preaching and work have for centuries been forced in their teachings to interpret from Ge'ez into Amharic, from Ge'ez into Amharic, not from Latin, not from Greek, not from none of that, from Ethiopia, for it's an Ethiopian book. And when he was fighting against the fascists, as far as the emperor himself was concerned, his conduct during the offensive was irreproachable. He was always in the zone of artillery fire and continuously exposed himself to danger. In the end, he went down into the plain and machine gunned the enemy himself with the terrific effort. In other words, he's not a coward, according to Garvey, because Garvey called him a coward. So let's see who's doing this. After that, Alexander the Macedonian made many wars. And then at the end, they will try to change all the ordinances. But it cannot stop the book of the Testament. So wheresoever was found the book of the Testament, because remember the original Ethiopian Bible was one big book, and it was not in an Old and New Testament format. Follow Jah, not man.